Don't mind the mess on the floor here. It's like the graveyard of paper scraps. But I wanted to just do this really quick little video to show how I set my backgrounds up. This is an 8x8 cardstock background. I think I have some really nice 300 GSM paper. It's real rigid, and it takes a lot of glue and water. It doesn't warp. And I try to use this as opposed to the fiber infused artboards because they're expensive and they're hard to cut. And the 8x8 size for the monograms that I've been doing lately, it seems to be very popular. So anyways, underneath here, this is an 8x8 background, and I use my Cricut and cut out this border, and it's a ½ inch, or maybe this might be 3/4 of an inch. What is it actually? I don't have a measuring tape in here, but it's either ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna guess it's around a half, maybe a little bit more than a half. This gives me white space around the edge of the piece, and that allows there to be a little bit of a buffer between what I'm making and the frame. And I just always think it's really important to have my artwork to have a white space around the edge. So this allows me to, it protects the edge, so when I tape it down, it also gives me a little bit of a buffer there. And I use this Do It Best painter's tape, which I really love. This is a 2-inch wide. It's a little bit too wide, but it's what I bought, and I had a lot of it, so it's what I ended up using. So all I do is I just tape down here, and this gives me a frame to work inside of. It also protects the edges of the paper, so sometimes when you pull the tape off, it ends up pulling the edges up. So this helps with that too. And then once it's all taped down, I also can kind of get the center. I can get my stuff centered better. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this last piece down, and I'm going to... Alright, so what I wanted to do is, this is a bee that I'm working on, and I was really struggling trying to get some ferns placed with it. And I didn't want to hand cut it because I just don't really do good with hand cutting paper. So I created a bee, and I got some generic fronds. And I was like, well, how am I going to get this to cut out around this bee? And I had cut it out a few times with just the fronds, and it was making a mess, to be honest with you. And I was like, yeah, that's not working for me. So what I decided to do was to weld the bee to the ferns, so that I wasn't having the issues with all these little spaces that were getting cut out and not really cooperating. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my bee down like that. I'm going to glue it like that. And now I still have a ½ inch around the outside edge that I can still build, but it's nice and a nice buffer visually for that frame. And I'm going to layer this. I've made this bee, but I don't want the ferns to be directly up against the monogram outline. And I didn't want to have to build my own dividing lines, so I just created another bee, same exact size. And I'm going to go ahead and just glue that on top. And as you can see, it gives a lip here. So there's a slight depth difference between these background fern leaves and this foreground bee. It's not really going to make that big of a difference in the long run because I'm still going to outline the bee as normal, but there is just something for me about creating the little bit of depth and not having it all look kind of, you know, singularly dimensional. I'm going to do the bee in 3/8 inch, and I might outline and fill in these with like a 1/4 inch or maybe an 1/8 inch if I'm feeling, look at the hiccups. If I'm feeling really cray-cray, I'll do 1/8 inch. I absolutely hate using 1/8 inch usually, but I think it actually would be a nice contrast between the two. And I want to make this one extra special, so that's what I'm doing today. And the colors for this are going to be fuchsia, navy, a bunch of different blues, a lighter pink, and there will be more components added. You just I don't have them all here right now to assemble. So anyways, that's what I'm doing today. Keep keep your eye out on Facebook and Instagram, and maybe even TikTok. I did start a TikTok account when I post little in progress videos.